Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. We're Indy investors talking Indy investing, and I got one of my favorite investors here in Indianapolis to work with. So she's somebody we worked with for, 3+ years, 4+ years, always bringing us great deals. So excited to have Laura Guy on here with me today. And it's funny, Laura, I was actually just talking to my wife about this recording because we got a piece of direct mail from you yesterday, and she does our mail and stuff. And she's like, "Who's Laura Guy?" And I was like, I have a recording with her tomorrow and stuff. But it's funny is like, I consider you, like, I kind of put you in this bucket of people that I feel like I know really well, but I kind of don't. So we've done deals together and we've worked together and stuff. And I'm like, oh, we've never really had like too many conversations or anything. So
Yeah,
excited to have you on here, Laura. Thanks a lot for joining me.
so excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So I would love to just kind of get into this a little bit. Love to hear for you to kind of tell the audience just a little bit about your background. So kind of what you were doing before real estate, how you got into real estate, and then what you're doing today.
Okay. So yeah, I graduated from Butler, and after I graduated, I went into the insurance industry, and I was a claims adjuster. So like my neck, I fell, I slipped and fell, a dog, but so I was like settling all these claims, and yeah, that was my job, and I really actually enjoyed it. I went into management and then middle management. And then I was working for Safeco Insurance at the time. And then our company got bought by another company and it became completely miserable. They got rid of half of the people, and then they made the rest of the people do basically twice the job. So people, it was just a mess. And, people were forced to work 60, 70 hours a week. And, I was a manager at that time, and I had to basically say, you have to get your job done. Sorry that you can't, go to your kid's game. And I just couldn't. And I just decided then and there that I was never going to work for anybody else ever again, because no matter where I worked, it could always happen to me.
Yeah.
So I actually left the company, took a lower level job, basically went back to being an adjuster so that I would have more time to start my own business. And that was actually, I should intercept saying I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And
That's everybody's story. Yeah. So that
yes.
makes sense.
So yeah, same old story. Read Rich Dad Poor Dad, decided that's what I was going to do. Wholesaling was absolutely the thing that, seemed, and it's still, it sounded the most sexy, the most, oh my God, I can make $4,000 just with no money and all that. So I left my job, and I think it was about 2 years later that I went full time. So it took me about a year to do my first deal, I'll say that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't sleep all week until that deal closed, it was terrifying. And then, so then I quit my job in 2012, and I have never looked back. I love it. I love being my own boss. I love the freedom. I love all the people that I meet that are entrepreneurs, and, that I've just learned so much from so many people in this time. So
yeah,
that's
awesome. That's great stuff. And like I said, we've done multiple deals to you, so I really enjoy working with you. You've got it figured out, and I always feel like, oh yes, this is a Lauren deal. All right, this is great. Let's take a look at this one. So on that note, though, I'd love for you to maybe just give a little bit of advice. So we work with a lot of investors, especially here in Indianapolis, where maybe they're fix and flippers, they're buy and hold, and that's really what they're marketing for and stuff. But then they realized, oh yeah, I can wholesale some of these leads as well. Or just there's people out there too. They're looking like, hey, I think I can wholesale in Indianapolis because it is a good market for that. So there's people that are looking to wholesale, properties here. What's some advice or maybe like a tip that you have for them, like as they're getting started, of what they could really look to do?
Well, I guess that I have advice for the two different kinds of people, because I feel like there's the people that want to start wholesaling, and that's what they want to do for their main business. And I think there's people that want to maybe incorporate wholesaling. If a deal comes across their desk and they know it doesn't work for them, but they can still make money off of it. Mm-hmm. So for the first group of people who want to start wholesaling, the number one thing I can say is just start making offers. Even if you don't have any idea, if you're like, I don't know what this is worth, but, maybe get some, some basic information. Does it need a roof? Is it vacant? Just some like basic questions about the property, where it is, drive by it, and just start making offers. And I realized, I feel like so much of the way I learned was just trial and error. Sometimes I had a property and I underpriced it so bad that people got mad at me for not selling it. And sometimes I like send out this deal that I thought was amazing. Everybody was like, that blows, but like, and I also would recommend maybe picking one neighborhood so you can really learn that one well, and then moving on to the next one, because it's really hard to learn a whole city. And I still struggle with there's still certain areas of town that I could say, oh, that's that pink house on the corner, and the other one would be like, I'm sorry, that's an Indy, So and then for the second part, for the people that want to start incorporating wholesaling into their business, and I know this too, is developing a buyer's list is a lot of hustling. And I mean, and wholesaling is a total hustle. I mean, you have to be able to take rejection and just let it slide off your back, and have people tell you that you're the devil for sending them this letter. And I mean, you just have to be like, okay, thank you, I'm really sorry. Bye. I mean, and that's on my nice days. But if so I actually work with a lot of renovators that, they'll be like, hey, I don't know what to do with this property, but can you do something with it? So they'll come to me and I'll split, if I'm able to do something with it, I just split the profits with them. So I think that's much more realistic when you have like a whole flipping business, because for you to evaluate, 50 calls that come across your desk or answer those calls is really hard when you're on the field, can't answer your phone, can't hear your phone because your, generators, whatever. But, or another thing is you could do some, very direct, lower level, or like less volume marketing. Like you could, say, I'm going to do every homeowner in this neighborhood and send them a letter, and just be prepared for calls for the next 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think wholesaling is a lot of like being at your desk, researching, and then you might go drive by 5 or 10% of those.
Yeah, no, those are great tips. Really good advice there. A couple things I really want to kind of unpack from that is number one, I like that you said, hey, just focus on an area. I think a lot of times wholesalers just get too broad, and it's tough to analyze when you're doing a lot of different areas and stuff like that. So you can focus on one neighborhood or one area or one quadrant of a city. I think it makes a big difference. But also too, I love that of just making offers. You got to kind of get used to it, and you got to kind of just put your time in doing it, because you're going to have some tough conversations. It takes a lot to kind of just put out there of like, hey, I know your house is worth $100,000, but I can only offer you 45 because it needs some work. Yes. And it's not an easy conversation to have, and it does take a little bit of practice. So making as many offers and getting used to that is huge.
Yeah, like just getting a comfort level of, saying, hey, this is almost having like your spiel ready, And one of the first things I almost always tell people is, hey, I'm an investor. I cannot offer you market value. What I can offer you is a quick close, no inspections. It's going to be cash. So it's going to be the people, and a lot of times, because as we buy distressed properties, agents just aren't interested in them because they can't make money off of them because they make a commission. So we really are the best bet for some people.
Yeah. And that really, just like you said, of like, hey, I'm not going to offer you market value, putting it out there. And that's what I always, tell people, like, hey, I'm looking for a property that I can add value to. I don't want something that's ready to move in. Like, I want something I can add value to. That's what I'm looking for. And that's, those leads that you do get like that, you just have to disqualify them and move on with it, because that's not really what you want. So, yeah. So on that note though, too, I think it's a kind of a hot topic that a lot of people are talking about, and kind of, I think it's worth educating. I'm glad I have you on here this week, because I just saw this post earlier this week so some people basically talking about, hey, I've only bought deals through agents, and I know especially right now the deals are getting pretty thin. Everybody's getting really competitive with it. So, hey, I need to maybe start buying from other wholesalers, but I'm not sure. I've never bought from a wholesaler before. I don't know how this works and stuff like that. So if you're somebody, maybe you're talking to somebody that's looking to work with you, or looking to work with another wholesaler, what's some advice you have for them of like, hey, wholesalers aren't all terrible. We have a legit business. We have some systems and processes in place. So what's some advice you have for them? I'm like, hey, it's okay to buy from a wholesaler, but be careful maybe of this, or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And 100%, obviously, I have to say it's okay to buy from a wholesaler. That's my business. But one thing that I would ask of anybody that's working with a wholesaler is I would say, is this your contract, or is this somebody else's contract? Because as you know, and I don't necessarily avoid people that are what we call daisy chainers, where they're marketing somebody else's contract, but sometimes they can get real confusing, and just kind of clunky,
Yeah.
So I think your policy and mine, I'd say 95% of the time, I don't think I've marketed somebody else's deal unless I was like trying to help them, or unless it was like a renovator. They're always mine.
Yeah.
So I either close on them and they're mine, or I have them under contract in my name. So my entity has the possession of it. So if I was an agent, I would absolutely say, is this your contract or is this somebody else's contract? I have found that one of the biggest difficulties in working with people who are, one, just entering this market, or two, are out of state, is that, if the deal's good enough, it's going to be gone before you have a chance to fly here, drive here. Or if you have a bunch of, you want more information about the neighborhood, happy to give it to you. But if a wholesaler has a good enough deal, it's going to be gone in a couple days.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would just get used to, or I would just try to say, hey, if you really want this, I would try to educate yourself as best you can and be willing to and able to act very quickly. And 99% of my deals are waive inspection. So
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a crappy house. You're getting a crappy house. Everything's wrong with it. You can do an inspection, and it's going to tell you everything's wrong with it, but that's what you get. So,
right. So here's about what I think it's going to be in rehab. Probably maybe add about 10 to 15 to that, because something else is going to go wrong and stuff. So yeah, that's what you're going to get. And no, I like that too, of just asking that question of, hey, is it your contract? And I always follow that up with like kind of my follow-up question to that is basically, have you talked to the seller directly? So basically, is it their contract, and are they the person that like has communication with it? If I have any questions or anything like that, I like to know who the go-to person is, or am I going to have to talk to like 3 people to get to the actual answer of that kind of stuff? So
right.
Yeah, so very good tips. So I do want to get into kind of the big reason I wanted to have you on here is, well, number one, you were just on the radio a couple of days ago, talking about just a couple of things. So the INStateREIA, there's a new conference coming up, and what you guys are doing. You are on the board of INStateREIA. So what all you guys have coming out this year, what you guys stand for, what you guys are working on. And then the big topic, of course, right now is the eviction moratorium. So, and number one, just great job on Saturday night. I didn't get to listen to all of it, but I heard bits and pieces of it because I was doing some other stuff. So awesome job on there. But I would love to just kind of pick your brain a little bit, or really just kind of turn it over to you and maybe have some follow-up questions for you on kind of what is, kind of for the investors that are investing here in Indianapolis, what are some things they need to know about what's going on with evictions right now, and then really what INStateREIA is doing to help them out as investors.
Absolutely. And I'll start with the eviction moratorium because I think that'll kind of segue into everything else. Initially the eviction moratorium was state by state. So, the governor of each state said, you can't evict people for certain reasons. And then, in our state, it was lifted August 31st. And INStateREIA, my organization, had actually filed suit against the state of Indiana, opposing it, saying it's unconstitutional. But before we could, get too far in that case, the CDC and the federal came in and made it national. So there are several organizations that are fighting that now, and we're trying to figure out a way of how we can best be involved in that. Money is an issue, and we're completely supported by fundraising. So it's a nonprofit. But a little bit on the eviction moratorium. At this point, it's been extended through March 31st. And I will say that it is only, it only applies to non-payment of rent. So you could still evict people if they're, if they have a meth lab in there, if they, have unsanitary living conditions, if they are violating some other portion of the lease, you can still evict them. Although I'm hearing that is being treated differently, court by court.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest injustices in our industry is that, they're unfortunate for every business that some of them have had to shut down. In our business, we haven't just been shut down. We're also being forced to continue providing the same, maintenance service and everything, and not getting paid. So it's not like I'm not getting anything, you're not getting anything. It's like, the tenant doesn't have to pay. but we still have to replace sewer lines. We still have to replace furnaces. We still have to fix roofs. We still have to, we still have to do all those things. So, I have a colleague who hasn't gotten a rent in either side of his duplex since March and had to replace the sewer line and still has to pay his mortgage, still has to do all those things. And I think that what's unfortunate right now is I think that landlords, and we're trying to, and I'm doing this myself, we're trying to change the verbiage from landlord to housing provider.
Right.
Because the term landlord kind of refers to some feudal system where we own the land and all your children and you work for me too. And really, I'm just giving you a house. I'm agreeing to maintain it. And that's it. It's just,
right.
it's a very
We've
simple,
entered into a contract and we've both
yes,
agreed to these things. Yes.
I don't own you, you're not forced to anything. So, so as a housing provider, we're not only forced to, support our own families through a challenging time and whatever else might be going on in our families, but we're required to support all of theirs too, and still maintain the house in the same way. So I think we're being continuing to be bent over farther and farther, and it's just I just think it's not just.
Right.
Yeah. And at this point, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just going to ask, so on your guys' standpoint for INStateREIA, what are some things that you're kind of doing to kind of, help us along, or just really just look out for all of us housing providers that are in this situation, like your friend that hasn't got, rent on a duplex, still has to pay the mortgage and like as every place a sewer line, because many of us are in that situation where it's kind of like, hey, we'll help you out, but you got to help us, you got to at least communicate with us and things like that. But sometimes that's not even happening. So.
Right. So INStateREIA's sole goal is to represent the interests of housing providers, wholesalers, investors, landlords, and to, and keep everybody informed of changing legislation, how it can affect you, how this can be interpreted, how this is being interpreted and enforced by this court, those things. And we rely solely on contributions. So but we also are holding an annual conference in April, April 15th through the 17th at the Sheraton Hotel. We're going to have several national speakers. We're also having Congressman, Indiana Congressman Trey Hollingsworth come and be our keynote speaker on Friday. And what's interesting about Trey is he is an investor himself. He flipped industrial properties and I think continues to hold some properties. So I think that it's something that's personal to him as well. So he's going to be discussing kind of how he foresees, the new administration, how they're going to unfold with the eviction moratorium. And I mean, Joe Biden has said several times that he anticipates it going through at least the end of August. And, what I think is detrimental not to just landlords but to tenants as well is that landlords are not renewing leases. They're going month to month because if I don't get paid for another year, I have to have some options, so I can choose to ask you to leave because your lease is up, not for non-payment.
Right, exactly. It's going to be put in that same situation as just for example like the forbearance stuff of really when the forbearance came out for mortgages and things like that, did it really set people up to help them out, or did it put them in a bad situation because all of a sudden they owe all this money at one time and stuff? So it's gonna be the same thing for, the evictions of maybe are you giving them false hope or false sense of security because then all of a sudden something's gonna happen. They're thinking like, oh, I can't be, nothing can happen to me. But realistically, hey, your lease is up now. Now I can't get rid of you because it's not about non-payment. It's your lease is up and that's what it is. So it's scary and it's tricky. And so this is something, and sorry, I didn't give you this on any of our like background stuff or like, hey, let's talk about this or anything. I'll just get your opinion on it, or kind of if you are in the know on this. But, one of the things I've heard is, when Biden's saying that, hey, this is going to be extended to the end of August and things, is that only going to really count for the properties that are under federal, basically federal financing? So Freddie and Fannie and stuff like that, or are they talking like now it's going to be for everything?
Well, on a foreclosure aspect, I believe it's only Freddie and Fannie. But for just a straight rental, I think it's going to continue being for everybody.
Okay.
Well, and I should say it's households that make less than 99,000 or double that if you're
Right.
if you're married or two party.
Yeah. So, okay. Do you have any just maybe advice or any tips for an investor out there that's kind of put in that situation of like, hey, this is this is where I'm at. I'm not getting any rent. I need some help and things. What's something they can do or something they can kind of, do to put themselves in a good situation, or maybe even just get in contact with you guys and work with you guys on like, hey, I want to be part of the solution for this as well.
Well, I would say definitely reach out to myself or, you can just go to the website INStateREIA.org. And I definitely think that, we've been trying to help people, just on a case by case basis or putting them in touch with, their people that are local to them. And we have members all over the state, and our goal is to represent every, housing provider in the state of Indiana. So definitely reach out to us and we'll do anything we can to help. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we got some more stuff to get into and stuff like that. But before as you're just talking about that, what is like the kind of the best way that what website do they go to? How can they get in contact with you? If you want to give out your email or anything like that, might be a good way for them to connect.
Sure. My email is guy_Laura@att.net. And then the website is INStateREIA, that's REIA, Real Estate Investor Association.org. And then, so either one of those, you can, there's a general email that goes to our basically person that runs the website and everything, and she would get you in contact with the right person.
Yeah. So awesome stuff. Appreciate that. And when I think of INStateREIA, I kind of think of two things. I think of you guys always, battling and helping us out. All of us investors are like, hey, like me, I'm like, I'm not a political person, but I don't, I can't get involved. So, hey, you guys do it for me. Like, that's great and stuff. But I also think of you guys as being great educators and doing things like this conference of helping out the investors on learning how to grow, learning how to, work within their business. And I'm looking at kind of the panel or like the list of all the things that are going to be happening for INStateREIA. So we got things on working with contractors and understanding the importance of contractors and stuff like that. You got tax tips, 1031 exchanges, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, deal machine stuff, things on notes, just kind of going down through the list here. You got Trey Hollingsworth, which is going to be, I'm excited about that one. So listen to hear what he has. You got, Vina Jones Cox coming in and talking about how you can make 5 figures during this recession and things, analyzing properties, and then just, of course, all the networking and stuff that happens during these events. So what's something that you're looking forward to this year and what you guys are going to do with this conference? It's, just to recap, it's on April 15th through the 17th here in Indianapolis at the Sheraton. So what's something that you're looking forward to this year, Laura?
I think more than anything, getting more people involved. I think like for me personally, I was never a very political person myself until this past year or so, and where I would say I just, started digging and learning a lot more. And I think that's been the same position for a lot of people. Yeah. So it's been awesome just talking to more people, having more events, talking to more people like you. And I think that one of the challenges of our business and what we do is that we're small businesses. We don't have a corporate office where everybody sees each other every day and you go to lunch and you talk and you share information. When I share information with people, it's at like a REIA, it's, friends that I've made, it's through things like this. And I think that now more than ever, we need to start getting together, sharing more information, understanding what affects our business and how we can all work together to protect our businesses and our tenants in, that it goes the same way. I mean, one of the things that Ethan Hatcher, who is the host of WIBC, was talking about is, and one thing I've also seen is a lot of people are just deciding to sell because they're afraid of, not having the cash flow. There's one guy in Ohio, I was on a call last night, and he is only writing month-to-month leases, and he'll say that there will be no rent changes in 12 months. But and now, see, I went all around in circles and I forgot what my original point was. Is that, we start selling and driving prices down, obviously more sales drives
Yeah.
prices down, then, it's going to be these big corporations that come in and buy in. And, working with a corporation versus working with a mom and pop investor is just it's worlds difference. We care about our property. It's our house.
Yeah.
We're going to be more personally invested in you as a tenant and in your house. So, and another statistic I recently learned is that 72% of landlords own 10 properties or less. So the majority of the single family rental market is mom and pop. So it's not these, we're not these rich landlords counting our money and laughing as you don't have water, and unfortunately, I think that's an image that is in a lot of people's.
Yeah. And that's really true. And that's really what's kind of happening here. And that's what we've seen the progression of, like, up to this point, and what it could possibly continue on is really, it's like the mom and pop investors, the small people that have, less than 10 rentals or anything, that are really being affected by this. But yet, and they are the true housing provider, the ones that want the best for their tenants. They want a positive outlook for everybody. It's a win-win situation for everybody. But when you're put in a situation like this of just like, I can't cover you. I can no longer be your housing provider because I can't afford this house anymore. Right. Unfortunately, that's what's really happening. And then, the horror stories that you hear of the people that, the big hedge funds that don't, they're out of state. They never even see the properties they're buying and things like that. Not saying everybody's like that, because there are definitely some good hedge funds out there that are doing it the right way and stuff. But those horror stories that you usually hear about, is that your typical landlord of what you envision, that's usually what the situation is. Right. And stuff. So that's really what's being affected here. And I really appreciate you kind of bringing this up and bringing it to light, and just speaking out about this, yourself, and through INStateREIA and everything you guys are doing. I do want to dig into one thing with you. So you mentioned a little bit ago that you said that you weren't really a political person and never really kind of thought about doing this. And honestly, that's something that I kind of saw some posts coming out, and, our buddy Elizabeth Sickles was posting some stuff of some things. And all of a sudden I see Laura like pop up in these photos. I'm like, I didn't really know that they like were connected, or they really knew each other. So what was it that kind of like made that turn for you? Like, hey, I need to get involved. Like, I need to do something about this. And then for the people that are kind of in that same spot of like, man, I don't think this is right. I want to do something. Like, what can they do? And like, how can they really get involved in this? So, or one, I really appreciate you taking that step and things, but kind of what, if you don't mind sharing, like, what was that turning point for you?
I don't mind at all. I've pretty much already been out there anyway. So,
yeah.
And I will give disclaimer that my views don't necessarily represent the views of all of INStateREIA. However, I think for me, when everything started to shut down, and the government was, forcing businesses to shut down, I think what to me was the biggest violation is that they were taking away people's abilities to provide for themselves and their families, and essentially saying, you're going to have to wait on us to figure this out and send you a stimulus check or send you $600. And to me, that's just not the America that I know. My mother's from Bolivia. I'm myself a Latin woman. My dad is American, and he married her there and then brought her back here. So I just, I've been there. I've seen other countries, and there's wonderful things about other countries, but there's nowhere else I want to live as a woman, as a minority, if that's, I know that's a big issue right now too. So that was what really, I guess, got under my skin and lit a fire inside of me.
Yeah.
So I've met a lot of new people this year. I've certainly lost a lot of people as well. I mean, it's certainly a divisive issue. And I really hope that there can be some common ground found in the coming years. But I think that I just feel like freedom has been taken away from people, and they should never not have the ability to take care of themselves or their families.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. And it's just like, your father marrying your mother and bringing her to, like, she saw, hey, she probably wanted to come here because of the American dream. My in-laws were in that same situation. They moved here from Portugal because of that American dream. And then you see things like this happen of like, this is not what people envision of America. Sometimes we take for granted if we've been here our entire lives and stuff like that. So it's cool to kind of see, why people moved here and things, but we're all in the same boat. And, when that American dream is jeopardized, that's when people like you get to, stand up and speak up. And so that's so cool to hear you say that and hear a little bit of your heart behind that. So thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And thank you for allowing me to share it with you.
Yeah. So awesome stuff. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. We're at our half-hour mark. So thank you so much for sharing all the great insights. Really excited for the INStateREIA. If you have not, if you need some information or anything like that, definitely check out their website or reach out to either one of us. We can help you get you connected and give you the link to get all signed up and everything you want to do with that. Laura, any last little thing that we didn't mention yet that you would like to mention, or just one more time maybe too, like how they can get in contact with you, or if they have any other questions or any follow-up things for you?
Again, I would say my email is guy_Laura @att.net. And one of my friends always says she's the only guy you need to buy from. So, and then to say that early bird prices for the conference are good through the end of this month, and they do include the keynote dinner with Trey, and then all the Zoom webinars and in-person training. And it's going to be at Keystone of the Crossing, so you can make a weekend of it and go shopping. And, we're definitely going to all get together and have drinks on Friday. And, it'd be a great chance to bring your deals, learn from us. We want to get to know you better. We want to get you involved. I think that's what I would say.
There you go. Awesome. And if you are worried about COVID and you don't want to be in a room with other people and stuff like that, it is virtual as well. So you can definitely check out the stuff on there. So great stuff. Laura, thank you so much. Really appreciate you and putting this information out there. Let me know if you need anything from me. My name is Brian at simplewholesaling.com. You can email me there. Let me know if you have any questions, insights, or anything you want us to cover on future episodes. Love to take care of that for you. Let me know how I can help you out. And with that, that's another episode of the Indy Investor Pod. We will see you guys next time. Take care.